Good, good morning, all once again. You are highly welcome to the Distinction webinar series. I'm highly excited this morning because of the important topic that we have to discuss, and has been very exciting to see the interest that this topic has generated. And more importantly, the special guest we have in our midst today. And I'm very optimistic at the end of the day, you will understand what I'm saying. So, once again, my name is Faiz Bashir. I'm the CEO of Distinction Labs and also FlexiServe EduServe Limited. Most of you will know me as FlexiServe, and of course, recently, Distinction. I'm your co host, and once again, you are highly welcome. Without wasting too much time, I will introduce our special guest of today and we get started. It's a real pleasure to introduce our special guest today, Dr. Najeeb Gambo Abdulhamid. For me, this introduction is both professional and personal. I've known Dr. from our days at ATB Bauchi, where he is my mentor, was someone I really look up to since our days in ATBU, and also served as our Amir and was someone many of us looked up for leadership, discipline, humility, and intellectual clarity. Our paths also crossed again through education and learning related work in Jigawa State Polytechnic. So I've had the privilege of seeing his commitment to knowledge, service, and human development over the years. Today, Dr. Najib is a researcher at Microsoft Research Africa, Nairobi, where his work sits at the intersection of technology, people, work, learning, and society. He holds a PhD in computer science from Brunel University, London, and an MSc in information systems from the University of Aberdeen, Scotland. His research interests cut across human-computer interaction, social and collaborative computing, crisis informatics, ICT for development, and the social impact of emerging technologies. Beyond research, Dr. Najib brings deep experience in education, digital learning, and capacity building. He is Google certified innovator, Google certified trainer, Google certified educator levels 1 and 2, and has also completed Google's Generative AI for Educators program. His other credentials include Screencastify certified educator, Nearpod distance learning expert, book creator certified author, and other professional certifications in digital and social media skills. He is also the founder of OpenSchool Initiative and the author of the course Critical Thinking in the Age of AI, hosted on Distinction. He's preparing to launch his upcoming book, which he will tell us more about. At a time when AI is changing how we learn, work, research, build careers, and make decisions, Dr. Najib is one of the right voices to help us understand how to use AI without losing our ability to think clearly and critically. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Najeeb Gambo Abdulhamid. It's our pleasure to have you today in our midst.
Thank you, Oga Pais. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you are able to see my screen, please.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. Um, esteemed members here, thank you so much. Pais, I'm really excited to be part of this epoch-making activity. And I really appreciate the opportunity given to us to discuss this interesting topic called critical thinking in the age of AI. I was in one of the conferences for Africa 2 to 3 years ago at East London in South Africa when we had this workshop where most of the members of the workshop were unanimous that AI brings a lot of what they called wicked problem. Because one of the factors they really cared about has to do with critical thinking. And that was the main trigger that made me to start thinking about how might we integrate or develop a course about critical thinking in the age of AI. So today, first I need to apologize. Maybe this is not the way I normally develop my slide, but you have to forgive me for that. But later I will give you the more polished slide from my perspective. It is a long story about that. So today I intend to discuss mainly the content of that course mentioned by Pais, the CEO of Distinction Lab and Plexisa. So mainly I'm going to focus on how to evaluate AI output, verify claims, spot misinformation, and think independently. But before I go, I think it's good in the book Pa is mentioned earlier, there was this opening I had in my chapter 1. Because what I did was after developing the course, I feel like let me write a book for those who are not students or those who are interested in thinking deeper toward this so that I can elucidate my thought there. So one of the things I started was a reflection about 2 images. The first one was my image. I use AI to generate this selfie. And I was like sharing it as a banter, saying the only thing that enables me here is my Wi-Fi or something of that nature. And I shared this image, taking a selfie with giraffe, gorilla, monkey, gorilla, lion, and other selfies. Those who are following me on Facebook may likely stumble on this. And we had this kind of laughter. But fast forward 2 months later, then there was this viral image that had been going on around social media landscape in Nigeria, where it really attracted a lot of attention, including a former senator who is currently being for another senatorship sharing this kind of image, and a one-time commissioner in Kano State sharing all these images about a cleric in Nigeria whom they purported to share a poster saying he's going to marry the former first lady. So why am I bringing these two different anecdotal stories? Because the same technology produced both. Why is one harmless and the other dangerous? One invited amusement and one invited belief. One could shape what people believe about real individuals. So the only challenge or the difference between these two images has to do with context, trust, relationship, and ability to think critically to understand what do these two pictures mean. Fast forward, 2 days ago, I was going through some of the reels, and I got these reels on my timeline where a lady shared this image where she had a prank. He used to do prank videos, most especially with her mom. And one of the prank videos he did that really resonated with me has to do with this image. If you can look at it, this is her mother. What she did was like to take the image of her mother, generate an image of a hypothetical boyfriend, and put the same attire her mother is wearing, and come and say, hey mom, you used to tell us that like you are holy. So now you have an invisible boyfriend. Tell me about this boyfriend. The mother looked at the image and realized this is really me. And there is this boyfriend that was like trying to give her a hug or a kiss. And the mother was really confused. And that was really unbelievable situation. And the mother seems to be like a kind of morally upright person. But now her daughter discovered that he has an invisible boyfriend, and the daughter confronts her mom in a prank video, asking her mom why is she not being open to them that she got an invisible boyfriend. And it was really an interesting when it comes to the action or reaction of her mom, which like if someone is not careful enough can make this mother to have a heartbreak or something will happen. And she took a stick trying to really beat her daughter for bringing this spurious claim. So what is the lesson here? So it means at this era, critical thinking is really, really an important factor for each and every one of us to understand and decide on what we do next. So, so even when the intention is playful, manipulated content can create real confusion, anger, and breakdown of trust. So the real issue is bigger than whether something is AI generated. So one of the central questions I was asking is, when AI generates something that looks believable, sound convincing, or feels real, how do you decide whether it deserves your trust? So AI is not the enemy of critical thinking, and critical use of AI is the enemy. So this session is not about rejecting AI. It is about using AI without surrendering judgments. The real challenge is deciding what to trust, what to verify, and what to question that comes from the AI. So why this course exists? Critical thinking is no longer only about a bad argument. It is about surviving polluted information environments. False claims now move faster than correction. Trusted people can still share unreliable information, as we will see. And AI adds speed, scale, hallucination, psychopathy, and deepfake challenges. And existing curricula in our universities, higher education of learning are not catching up with this kind of reality. So the gap is not intelligence. It is what we call preparedness. So one of the reasons why that we really need critical thinking course, more especially in this age of AI, has to do with our realities in Africa. I think mob justice, jungle justice is really apparent. And even not more than 2 months ago, a mere rumor of a woman trying to like take 2 babies made people to confront that reality, and even went to a police station in Kaduna where they ended up in killing the woman. And in fact, they have to post a police officer to surrender the woman, and they killed her because of what they call jungle justice. So bad information can produce real world consequences before truth catches up. And we have all this kind of news in Nigeria. A mere rumor that you are trying to steal something or pickpocket something, people will just round you up and put a tire on your head, and that is the end of the story. So that is one of the factors. Another one has the problem of information disorder, things related to misinformation, malinformation, and disinformation. And this kind of problem of information disorder, you realize that education, experience, status, and public trust do not make anyone immune to this kind of error. And long before the advent of these large language models, these examples I will take like 5 minutes to share so that you can understand where I am coming from. You will understand where I'm coming from. That is why we really need critical thinking course. Here is an example. Dwara Rochas Okorocha is a governor in Imo State. He appointed a lady and called her Commissioner for Happiness. And somebody just went and created a Twitter account where he introduced himself as a Commissioner of Happiness and created the maiden tweet. Let me educate Nigerians on this. For those lacking ignorance, United Arab Emirates has ministers of happiness and they are ahead of us. Read this. And she shared the wiki link for people to go and read. So interestingly, even the Vanguard newspaper, who is supposed to be at the forefront of verification, went on and tweets, keep quiet, Imo Commissioner for Happiness, blast critics. While in reality, they didn't even understand this is a parody account. Not only Vanguard newspaper, even late Professor Pius Adesemi, one of the most prolific critic and amazing scholar we really missed, has to share thinking that this is also a real thing. So you can see a whole newspaper that verification and fact checking is rested upon them to provide reality for us is missing this. A whole professor from one of the renowned universities in the world is missing this context. Again, another example, you can see a former permanent secretary, a former national secretary of INEC, Professor Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed, was caught off guard sharing fake news about appearance of Buhari in a studio during a match with Ghana. And he has to recount this story. This is a doctor, a former permanent secretary, a one-time secretary of INEC. And here is a former a senior advocate in Nigeria, former executive secretary of human rights, also sharing fake news during Lekki massacre. And he was saying Polorisho Alabisi was listed missing following the Lekki massacre. His body was found by his relatives, so and so. And he mentioned where the body was dumped. And the hospital came out and said, we even don't have mortuary, to just show this. This is a professor, a senior advocate of Nigeria, a former a national figure doing this. And even a former minister, currently World Trade Organization boss Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who worked even at the World Bank, was caught, found down sharing a fake news. Now, look at a professor of media studies, one of the most prolific, renowned social critics in the Nigerian cyberspace, Professor Faruku Perogi, sharing another disinformation about purported death of somebody. Suike, and here is Yusha Usha, like countering all this kind of argument. And here is another, the last one here is an example of a civil society organization, one of the prominent ones, sharing a fake news and recanting also the fake news. So what make all this trouble? So if a professor, two professors, a lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, former permanent secretaries, a national figure, a former minister, and all these people in those days before the AI eras can make so many celebrity mistakes as human. So what happened when we have this era where you will find out that information created using this generative AI tended to have a lot of currency. And so what made this, all these crime trials, they said authority, emotion, familiarity, missing context, delayed verification, and equality. So no person, profession, or institution is exempt from the need to verify. And verification comes with really critical thinking. So this is just an example to show you the justification for having a critical thinking in the age of AI, undergoing this course to understand all this kind of problem. And AI makes the problem even faster, cheaper, and more believable. Speed, false or misleading content can be produced almost instantly. One person can generate many versions for different audiences, and weak claims can look professional and authoritative. and people will believe because of authority, heuristic bias, feel like, wow, the language is so polished and people can tend to attend. And remember, images, videos, and audio can create false evidences. Now, previously, you need like a studio, you need professionals, you need huge budget of money to mimic somebody using video or audio or something of that nature. Last year, I really felt for one prophet. They call him prophet. I think he's a Zimbabwean prophet. I saw a really, really terrible thing about how some people were able to manufacture a video in the voice of that prophet. He was so controversial. I can't remember his name. He's a prophet in South Africa. And one woman alleged that man invited her and they want to do a lot of things that is unholy. And the video went viral. And the prophet was so renowned. Social media went frenzy talking about the unholiness of a holy person. And like 2 days or 3 days later, somebody come and said that was a concoction. He was the one who created this video, and he succeeded in like in maliciously making that man look bad. And that person has a wife, has kid, and that video already created this kind of false information. And you know, the speed at which false allegation will travel, regardless of whatever people can come and say it is not true, it is not going to be equal in terms of volume, speed, and impact. So there is this problem of hallucination, there is problem of psychopathy. So that make all this worse, and it makes us to start thinking AI did not invent information disorder. It amplifies its physical reach and credibility. That makes us to start thinking, yeah, so we need to really be careful when dealing with the content, more especially as we deal with this as we are academic students, researchers, and all this kind of thing. So critical thinking education has not caught up. What many courses still emphasize is formal logic, fallacies, philosophical argument, abstract reasoning exercise, traditional source of evaluation. But what students encounter at the moment is AI-generated answers, fabricated citations, confident hallucinations, synthetic images, audio and video, viral WhatsApp and social media claims, AI support persuasion. So verification must become central, not optional. Students are already using AI, but many have not been trained to judge what it produces. So that is why we are having this course on distinction. So here is an example, but because we don't have time, we can't do that. Initially, I wanted just to have a poll to understand which paragraphs sounds false and which one sound trustworthy. Is it paragraph A, paragraph B, or both? So you need to think of. I just wanted to give an example for you to go through and tell me which one you feel like is a false paragraph just by mere reading. But the lesson here is this paragraph A, you will sound, doesn't sound, you will look at it, it has an awkward grammar, poorly structured, factually accurate, but feel less credible compared to paragraph B, as it is really has excellent grammar, smoothly structured, factually inaccurate, and feels more. So fluency is a picture of the output. It is not even evidence of the truth of the output, because people see something very fluent, naming like institutions that are available, concocting a statistical numbers. All this make people feel like, oh, it has name of World Bank, it has this and that, but that is not true, because these tools is really good in producing highly laudable language. So the good writing can disguise weak truths. Poor writing can still communicate an accurate fact. And I think one thing I need to reiterate here, plausible does not automatically mean accurate. Plausible language, AI is highly capable of producing fluent, coherent, and convincing answers. Accurate and fabricated information can appear in the same confident style. And such retrieval, calculation, and tools can help, but do not make every answer verified. So generated output is not equal to retrieved material, not equal to established evidences. The appearance, confidence, polish, and level of detail in an answer are not sufficient evidence of its accuracy. So previously, we said even intelligent, well-educated, highly recognized national and international figures can be found in this kind of slippery slope. So what makes them get pulled? There are a lot of psychologists in the book. I mentioned some of the studies that made this apparent. One of the things is what they call automation bias, where the system said so, it is so probably right. Because like it is ChatGPT or Cloud or Copilot or Gemini or Kimi or any other AI tool that produced this sentence. So you feel like that is correct. So automation bias is one of the factors. Then fluency heuristic. It will be difficult for you to see an AI sloppy written sentences. It is always perfect. It is well written, so it feels true. Then there is confirmation bias. You really wanted something, and AI provides that perspective. And we are going to see one example. And there is this problem of issue anchored in the first answer said everything that followed. People just seeing the first answer feel like, okay, that this thing is really correct. So AI output arrive in forms our mind are already inclined to trust. And I mentioned that a lot in the book. So one thing that will really surprise you is because of AI tend to give you what you need. That is a problem of psychopathy. One of the things that researchers are still battling has to do with hallucination and psychopathy. While hallucination has improved, the level at which AI hallucinate has reduced drastically, but the reduction of this hallucination creates another danger for people, because people will tend to have more confidence. Because I could recall back in 2023, around December 2024, you will ask ChatGPT about something, and even if you want, what do you call it? Even if you really need what you call, you ask it to produce what do you call it? This reference. ChatGPT will produce that references. But on going to find out, you realize once you click, you realize the title or the reference does not even exist. So it like just made it up. Fast forward 2025, 2026. On a scale of 1 to 10, that level of fabrication has reduced to nearly 80%. And the reduction of this creates more danger for us, because people will tend to believe now the hallucination capabilities is reduced. Now people will tend to slack in going to find out that, and that is the danger. And you could recall, so recently South African government came up with its AI policy, and the AI policy, when they were looking at it, they realized that so many things were fabricated. They have to withdraw that kind of thing. So that is one of the problems. So here is what I wanted to tell you. Hallucination is a problem. Psychopathy, telling AI to give you what you want, is also a problem. So here is an example I did. Same AI, opposite conclusion. Here is the first case study, the prompt. Make the strongest possible case that universities should prohibit students from using generative AI. Present the argument in exactly 5 concise bullet points. Argue the position as persuasively as possible. If you have the time, you go through this, you will realize these are one of the best arguments that we can make a case for university to strongly prohibit students from using generative AI. And take this prompt, put it in any generative AI tool. It will give you very, very persuasive. But on the other hand, take another prompt and say, make the strongest possible case that universities should encourage students to use generative AI. Present the argument in exactly 5 concise bullet points. Argue the position as persuasively as possible. The AI will give you the something you want. So you should understand hallucination and psychopathy. Whatever you want, it will give you regardless of that. But later we are going to see how we are going to address this. And one thing I really want to drive, and that is from the course, is persuasive is not the same as proven. What does the AI actually believe? Which argument sounded more persuasive? What evidence did each argument provide? What assumption did each argument make? Which values did each argument prioritize? And which conclusion did the AI itself believe? Neither in the human sense. The same system can construct either position. So responsibility for judging evidence, assumptions, values, and consequences remain with us. That is why critical thinking is really, really important. So that is why under this thing, in the course, we come up with what we call STOP protocol. And I will explain this STOP protocol. Here is just an example. Before you believe or share this message, here is just an example. Urgent notice to all students. The National Universities Commission has approved a new rule. Beginning Monday, any assignment detected as more than 30% AI generated will be automatically cancelled and the student reported for academic misconduct. All lecturers have been instructed to begin enforcement immediately. Please forward this message to every class group. So this is just a fictitious. And like one of the things that is, okay, National University Commission controls the regulator of the universities. And it comes with all this kind of thing. So the idea is, what will you do before believing or sharing this message? If you look at the message, the anatomy of message, number one, you will see that it's an urgent tone. Number two, you can recognize authority, the National University Commission. There is a precise percentage, 30% AI generated, and there are serious consequences. All lecturers have been instructed to begin enforcement immediately. No official circular or dates. So these are some of the red flags that critical thinking will really teach every one of you. So that is why for every document that, or for every sentence that is urgently generated, is asking you to share, you need to do this, what we call STOP protocol. S stand for stop. Do not forward, panic, confront a lecturer, or immediately change behavior. That is what to apply. You just stop. Do not forward. The T stand for think. What exactly is claimed? National rule, Monday start, scientist threshold, automatic cancellation. You need to ask all this to think about the implication. Oh, the origin. What is the origin? Who issued it? Why is the circular? Who posted it? Can the authority be traced? Most of this you will find out it is really difficult for you to do that. The P is proof. Check official university and regulatory channels. Contact the academic office. Seek independent confirmation. So whatever you have seen, just apply the STOP protocol of critical thinking and see. So STOP prevent urgency, specificity, and borrowed authority from becoming substitute for evidence. Pause is not indecision. It creates the space in which judgment becomes possible. So that is one of the main protocol that we enunciated in the course about STOP. Think. What is the origin? What is the prop of anything we have seen that is urging us to do something? So, but should we always put ourselves, simply because we begin to learn critical thinking, should we always do this STOP? We said no. The only time you need to apply STOP is when you plan to cite something. Number two, you plan to submit it, or you plan to share or forward it, or it will influence an important decision. It will influence an important decision. It will affect someone's reputation. It concerns health, safety, finance, policy, or public event. It contains statistics, dates, quotations, or citations, or it appears dramatic, urgent, emotional, or unusually perfect. So anytime you have this, just stop and pause and apply the protocol. And this will help you and save you from several embarrassments. So if this is wrong, what could it cost? Verification effort should be proportional to consequences. Here is an example of live hallucination. And because we don't have time, we can't do that because we don't have time. I know we are pressed on the time. But here is example, especially for student researchers, academics. Many times, innocently, you are doing your academic work and something they will just generate a reference. So here, one thing I need to do is just to ask you to go and use any link to find on whether Mensa KA and Ademi exist, and if they exist, on whether they have published a paper 2025, and whether that if they have a paper, do they have a paper with a title Generative AI and Graduate Employability Across Africa? Even if they have that paper, does that paper has a journal called Journal of African Learning Futures and volume 18, issue 2, or it has a page from 113 to 131. These are some of the critical thinking work as a student, researcher, academics, you need to always do whenever you are confronted with this kind of problem. So these are some of the questions I already asked them. Let me just move to this. When the claim matters go beyond stop, there is also a situation whereby you need to go beyond the stop protocol. So we have this 7 verification step. We featured it in the course. When you have this kind of thing, you need to identify the source. When you identify the source, identifying the source is not even, it is possible somebody, you will have a content generated by AI that will provide a right source. Then 2, you need to track the original. If it gives you the right source, you need to track the original source. Then you have to open and examine it because it can give you the name. Because from my experience of a lot of doing a lot of literature review, most of what AI tended to do is just to look at the title, the abstract, and the conclusion. It may not really read the entire thing. So it is possible that it can just create something based on the abstract and based on the title. So you need to open and examine it. And sometimes you need to seek independent confirmation. There were this experiment that happens either in Stanford or in Harvard, and with a team of fact checkers, journalists. So whenever they are doing things, one thing they realize is most of the researchers tended to still maintain using AI generated tools, while researchers tended to move out from the AI environment and go to do a normal Google search. So that is how they understand the differences between how academics and fact checkers are doing, because fact checkers tended to look for different sources, not that internal source. And you need to search for alternatives and see whether there are other alternative arguments. And you need to trace even the interest and the motive of those sharing that. And you need to understand proportion confidence to evidence. So high confidence, so you can understand when you verify something, you need to have this calibrated trust, where you need to decide, oh, this is it high confidence, moderate confidence, low confidence, insufficient, or unable to verify. So verification does not always end with true or false. Sometimes the possible conclusion is, I cannot verify this. So there is also difference between verification and evaluation, and in which in the course we also talked about that. Verification tended to do, does the source exist? Does it say what is claimed? Is the quotation accurate? Do independent sources confirm it? Is the date and context correct? You are doing a verification work. But when you are evaluating the contents, you need to go further as a critical thinking and start asking, is the source credible for this question? Is the evidence strong enough? Is the methodology appropriate? What limitations remain? Does the conclusion follow from the evidence? Because I can argue with a weak source, and anybody can come and create whatever they want. For example, there like 5 to 6 months ago in Nigeria, there were this information whereby some group in Nigeria shared an information with some American lawmakers. And based on that, American lawmakers were able to come and try to see how to sanction Nigeria. But Later, some people went and do some digging, and they went beyond verification to start asking whether the source of that information is credible, whether the evidence is strong enough, whether the methodology is appropriate. Because, like as researchers, we know that is why we have reproducibility in research. You can come up with something, but if it cannot be reproduced, if I use the same approach, that is not a good research. So we need to go beyond verifying this thing really exists, but to even understand the credibility and quality of that information. That is what critical thinking is all about. And that is what we taught in that course. Is the methodology appropriate? Even if the methodology is appropriate, what are the limitations where we can apply or we can understand the factual information coming from that studies, and the conclusion follow from the evidence? So a source can be real and still be weak. A statistics can be accurate and still be misleading. So verification establishes the evidence is real, but evaluation determines what the evidence deserves to prove. And we have shown that in detail in the book. AI is not the enemy. I think I will go from here. I will just jump all this and discuss evidence or bias. In the book, I talked about evidence or bias. So as a critical thinker, when you are confronted with AI generated information, or you are dealing with AI for any information work you are interested, or you receive an information even in WhatsApp or whatever. So there is a way you can differentiate between what is evidence and what is bias. And there is this ladder of quality and credibility of information that while you are dealing with content or wherever you are dealing with, you need to understand the strengths. Here is the ladder. So an anecdote and personal experience may not have as much quality compared to relevant expert judgment. Let's say this subject matter expert in the field, the past person come and provide anecdote and personal experience. But when you weigh it side by side with relevant expert judgments, where subject matter experts in that field who have published, who have been there, and who are recognized, came and provide a perspective, I think that expert judgment will weigh much better compared to the anecdote. And even the subject expert judgment tend to have low input or quality when it's compared to this are some of the case studies people undertake. And surveys and cross-sectional studies have at least more clarity and more confidence. And well-designed experimental or observational research has more quality compared to less compared to systematic reviews and multiple convergence studies. So people dealing with literature, information, AI-generated content, or working with AI need to understand all this. So this is just a guide, and there is this rules. Every number needs a source. If you are dealing with information, you need to understand every number you get needs a source, and every source needs to be verified, and every conclusion needs reasoning. So evidence becomes stronger when it is systematic, appropriately designed, independently supported, and suited to the claim. So one of the things also while dealing with information in the AI era, we need to understand is about studies that came up from the UK about understanding information disorder. And this was like when there was this stories about fake news. So these researchers came up with this idea of having an ecology of information disorder, where they have misinformation, disinformation, and malinformation. And the tweet I shared earlier, shared by Professor Pius Adesami, by Vanguard News, by Odin Kalu, by Ngozi Okonja-Iweala, by Professor Faruk Perogi, you will understand can be put into this three buckets. So when we said misinformation, we are referring to false information shared without an intention to cause harm. So misinformation, you can share it. So intention is the purpose. You didn't really, you feel like there is an urge. It is really a serious thing for you to share, but the intention is not to cause harm. So an example is a relative forward a false health remedy, believing it will help. Like somebody will say, when you have a ginger, you have this and that, you put it, it will help you to, like those years we have this around 2 a.m. somebody called my phone. I wake up and say there is a message coming up that we should all take bath with a salt water. I believe like most of you were able to get that salt water. So that is really misinformation, because the intent is not to cause harm, but the information is not right. So that is misinformation. Disinformation is a false information deliberately created or spread to deceive, manipulate, or harm. That is disinformation. And this comes a lot during campaign. And could you recall, and I made this as an established chapter in the book, AI is Not the Enemy, where we talk about the clip that appear a day to the election, where there was this discussion between Atiku Abubakar, Tambuwal, and one other person trying to manipulate the election. And it was really, the timing was deliberate, the voice, and almost everything. And there was so many discussion around fact checkers about the impact of that disinformation campaign. Then malinformation. Malinformation is weaponizing a true information. That is a true information stripped of context or discloses an intention to harm. Example, private but genuine information is published to humiliate someone. So that is malinformation. So in the age of AI, we need to really, really be careful, because there is speed, there is scale, there is ability, because like AI knows a lot of things. Ordinarily, for you to create really emotionally appealing images that can take you like 1 hour for crafting, like you can do it like in less than 2 minutes. The ability to distort an image or to train a voice and weaponize that voice for your own thing is really easier. To generate a video is really easier. So all this kind of thing, we need to understand this kind of information, so that we should really be careful. So trust and intention are separate questions. We need boost to understand the type of information disorder involved. So classification changes the response. So when you understand on whether this is malinformation, disinformation, or any misinformation, so there is need the way we can do, for example, if it is misinformation, you discover this is an information, you need to have to correct that passing. And you need to have that kind of empathy, because like the way we deal with misinformation, a lot of things going on in our WhatsApp groups. So attacking that person who shared that will only infuriate and make him not able to surrender. But reaching out to him privately and saying, this information you shared, I don't think is this and that, it makes life easier. So these are some of the way we can do to correct this kind of thing. And one other thing we do in terms of critical thinking, you know, that this word is really, this sentence is really popularized. Seeing is no longer believing. So what we need to teach ourselves is like, we don't need to always feel like we can be subject matter expert in identifying video, audio, or image, because they keep improving every now and then. And everything that will make you to say, I can identify AI, there are ways people can manipulate so that it keeps improving. Because like those years, you will see, we can identify whether it is AI generated by looking at the hands, cheek, the teeth, look at the distorted text, search for strange shadows, trust an AI detection score. Even the AI detection score is no longer there. So you can't believe all of them. Because even last week, I read an academic who defended his thesis and wrote his thesis around 1990. Took his entire thesis and put it in one of the so-called AI detective plagiarism machine. He wrote his thesis like around 1990, and it comes with 88% AI generated content. So you understand. So there are a lot of things you can't believe about. So what you need to do just to deal with all this, you can't put yourself, you may not have the energy, the expertise, and even the time to do all this detection. The simple thing you need to do is just to understand who posted it, identify the person who shared this. Is the original source identifiable? Is there independent reporting about this situation? Does the location and date match? Has it appeared previously? Are there corroborating images or witnesses? So the honest answer be, I cannot verify this. Look at the initial image I shared about a cleric and a former minister when people were sharing the image about his purported marriage with a former past lady, Aisha Buhari. So a simple discussion is who posted this? Are the couples? Are the families? Is it from their own social media handles? Then you move, is the original source identifiable? Is there any independent reporting about it? Does the location and date match? Has it appeared previously? Because with my experience, when I was doing my PhD, then that was before the generative AI era, I work with this organization called Humanity Road. And one of the things we do is verification of information during disaster. And one of the things I discovered from my PhD research is identifying the type of information these volunteers use to identify whether they are going to share this information or not. So they have this ecology on whether this information is official. For example, the governor, the minister, the head of organization saying there is a fire outbreak, for example. That is official. Then they have what they call trusted information source. What is this trusted information source? Like if the information is shared by organizations such as Save the Children, such as Doctors Without Borders. These are organizations that are trained and normally tended to be in the field where disaster happens. They said this is trusted information. They have what they call untrusted information. They have what they call unknown information. And for them, even to identify whether information is good enough for them to act on it, like if Bello Eti Suleiman shared a tweet and Faiz Bashir shared a tweet from Bello, and Nasir Bello also shared the tweet from Bello. So they said this is not a good enough information. They are sharing one information. We need to verify twice. Are there anybody who shared the same information about that thing and they are not retweeting that information? So that is some of the quality filters. So toward the end, one of the things we advocated in both the course and the book is thinking replacement or using AI as a thinking partner. We share different ways people can use AI as a partner or as a replacement. For example, instead for you to ask AI to write your answer, is write your answer, challenge the AI to provide different perspective about what you wrote. And instead for AI to accept or to write it, whether this is true, you examine, tell it to give you alternative to your answer. And you test your reasoning, you verify consequential claims, and if you cannot explain the output, ask AI to do that. So that is some of the strategies you will do to use AI as a thinking partner. And even in the book, as well as in the what do you call it, in the course, I provide different type of prompts that you can use to help you improve a lot of things from the AI you interact with. For example, asking it to challenge you, to surpass your assumptions, and to demand evidence or to get multiple perspective or to stress test the conclusion to see on whether there is some opening or there are some shortcomings or there are black spots that you need to do. So I gave all these examples. Because of the time, you can just go and read that from that. And one thing I really want to hammer has to do with responsible use of AI. So I gave these three different type of buckets. Before AI, before you use AI in any work, maybe define the problem yourself. Don't allow AI to take over your thinking. Then when you define the problem you are trying to work on, then write your initial position or questions. Decide what assistance you need and identify what judgment must remain yours before you just go and ask AI to give you everything. Because one of the things that really make me think a lot has to do with the number of calls and emails and the text messages I used to receive from a lot of people. Now I have written my thesis or my project or my dissertation. Did I know any generated AI tools that can humanize my work? I said, oh my God. So you understand, the idea is you use the AI, then you come and find something that can humanize your work. That is really a terrible way. It's really always making me to start thinking, that is not the right way to do this. First, develop your own foresight, then how work with AI to see how it can help you improve or look at some of the things you are not good at so that it can improve the coherence, the clarity, or even an example. That is how you use AI. So that before AI, do this. During AI, challenge its claims. Don't always accept it on a face value. And even after, ask it on a scale of 1 to 10. What are some of the exposures I have with these points? And it will begin to tell you this. Ask for alternatives, surface assumption, request counter arguments, separate suggestion from evidence, and notice missing context. You are the owner, you are the subject matter expert, it will just give you something. And after AI, verify consequential claims, check every citation and statistics, rewrite using your own judgment, disclose use where appropriate, and explain and defend the final output and take responsibility. So AI may contribute to the process. Responsibility for the result cannot be outsourced. And one thing I also want to hammer out before I conclude is accuracy is not the end of the question. An AI-assisted action can be accurate, efficient, and technically permitted, and still be ethically questionable. So whatever you're going to do, you need to think who benefits, who may be harmed, who may be excluded, what relationship may be strengthened or weakened, what happens to trust. Will I be comfortable explaining this use openly? Am I willing to take responsibility for the consequences? Good AI use is also about what the use does to people, relationship, and community. So we should have this at the back of our mind. And at the end, I said AI produce human judges. You are the quality filter. Pause before accepting, verify before citing, sharing or acting, challenge reasoning, not only facts, and take responsibility for the final decision. The evaluation, verification, and decision about what deserves trust still happen on our side of the screen. So you are the quality filter. And today, what we did was to introduce the habit. The course provides the practice, how to evaluate, how to verify, how to sync with AI, and how to practice. It is a 12 self-paced modules. It has pre and first diagnostic, it has guided exercise, and there is a completion certificate. So just give me. There is a completion certificate, and fluency is not evidence. Trust proportionally and verify when it matters. Use AI to challenge your thinking, not to replace it. So one thing I just want you to take away is before I use, cite, share, or act on AI generated claim, you need to think of one habit I will practice this week is one AI behavior I need to change is one claim I now realize I should verify. These are some of just take away you need to have because you are the quality filter. So what remains uncertain? Where should institutions draw the line on AI use? Which claim deserve the greatest verification effort? Can critical thinking keep pace with improving AI? What responsibility belongs to users, institutions, and AI companies? Thank you so much. There was this thing, because I was in a haste. Just 1 minute, Faiz. Let me just give me a minute. Okay. Let me stop sharing this. I will share one thing. Chrome tab. So there is this book, AI is not the enemy. If you feel like you can't afford to buy it, just find me through either LinkedIn or whatever. I am happy to share the content with you. The reason why I just have it there is part of my digital footprint. If you need the book, I'm happy to share it with you so that you read. My main interest is that it helps you get to understand how to deal with AI anywhere. I don't know. Were you able to see the book?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, thank you. So I will stop sharing and I will stop here. Thank you for your time and for your listening here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for this very interesting presentation. You will all agree with me, how important and interesting it was. I can't believe it's up to almost an hour since the beginning of this presentation. But notwithstanding, we still have some Q&A, and maybe some of you have one or two questions. We hope to round up in the next 20 to 30 minutes. But before we go into that, I would like to once again talk about the course, on distinction, critical thinking in the age of AI. This is the author, Dr. Najeeb. You can see how in-depth this work has gone through and so on, a lot of research and all of that. Maybe during the course of our Q&A, we will learn more. He has already said a lot, but we will learn more behind the thinking on the critical thinking in the edge of AI. So just go through this link or scan this QR code for your free access. And it's a very rare opportunity to have a mentor like Dr. Najib. When he hosted this course, I asked how much will this cost? Because I had the opportunity to go through this course. And believe you me, it's one of the best courses we have on distinction. You've seen all his experience and certifications when it comes to training, e-learning, and so on. All that thought has been put into this course, and it's so interesting to go through it. So you should rush and enroll and complete this course before I convince him to put a price on it. And I will surely do sooner or later. So before it becomes a hot cake costing you a lot of dollars, this is your opportunity. Enroll and add it to your certificate, add it to your CV. This is a very important subject. And even in FlexiServe, for example, is a very important thing we are already experiencing. It can cost you a lot in your job or in even your career opportunities if you cannot think critically and cause maybe a huge embarrassment or a huge loss to your organization or to your personal endeavors. So that's why I highly recommend and encourage you to enroll today. It's one of the most popular courses on Distinction today, and I invite you all to participate. You've also heard Dr. Najeeb is the co-founder of OpenSchool, and OpenSchool initiative is they are into a lot of capacity development, digital empowerment, and so on. So many more courses will come. So just put your eye on openschool.distinction.app and follow them accordingly. He has talked a lot about this book, AI is Not the Enemy, and it's highly recommended to learn more and put all these things into practice. So we'll quickly go into some quick Q&A. Before I open the mic, I would like to use this opportunity to ask some questions I've had for a long time to ask Dr. And for me, it's more about how he embraced AI early. I've never told him this, but honestly, you've you've encouraged me or motivated me to pay attention and quickly go into AI as early as possible. And now I have some certifications around AI based on the work you were doing on social media. Every post was very important, very spot on. He started really early before I even knew the capabilities of these AI models, the different tools. He was sharing a lot of examples, and that's one of the key drivers that has helped me today. So, but I'd like to ask you, you know, long before the Gen AI became mainstream and so on. Now, what did you see early that made you realize AI will become important for education, work, and human development?
This is really an interesting question. When I was doing my PhD, one of the things I said, apart from coming with my PhD, I really need to learn something new. And that was the main driver that pushes me to start becoming or learning about educator, technology in education, because I really have passion for teaching. And then I joined Google Educator groups. Under this Google Educator groups, that was how I became Google Certified Educator, Google Certified Trainer, Google Certified
Better.
Innovator. So in that group, there is a lot of discussion about use of tools. And it was in that same group, Google Certified Trainer community, I saw somebody on the day Sam Altman launched ChatGPT. I saw how that guy shared that the video and how like the wow factor in which it asks to do something and it generates that text. And the guy wrote something about this ChatGPT. On that day, I was able to go through that ChatGPT and began to understand things. So that is the main factor. And immediately after that, I work with a multinational corporation, and it becomes a wow factor, and it becomes the most important thing. That's what sustained my interest. And to me, writing is something I really have to. Whenever I am so exhausted, my next thing, even though I am so exhausted, is just to write something. And that was how the writing began to evolve and how I became really interested. And I realized I was among the few people that started blogging about different aspects on this AI. Because, like, looking back at all my Medium blog, I can understand the kind of writing I have done in the area of AI and how the AI is evolving right from the beginning and some of its challenges up to this time around.
Very interesting. And obviously, we can see the track record now. You've already written a book, you've launched a course on AI. And
Yeah,
another
I think
thing,
as a disclosure, I think as a disclosure, it's something I did like bravely. So that in the file I shared with you for this, you will see like I take about 4 pages explaining the thinking, the process, and method and the activities I was able to take just to develop the course. So I was really open to it. I have no apology that I use AI to develop the course. And I outlined the process and I outlined my role and I outlined what AI was able to do. So I put it there. And even the book I have written, AI is not the enemy. If you go to the website that I hosted that you shared, you will realize there is a chapter behind the methodology so that I don't lie about what. I was asking people to use AI deliberately, consciously, and critically, and I was showing the method I was able to go through to develop the book without like hiding I didn't use AI. So I think this disclosure is really good. People can just go and take a look at either the course or the website I hosted that's critical thinking. AI is not the enemy, so that they can read about the process. And I'm happy to even share it with anybody because the idea is the more people learn, the more humanity will benefit.
yeah, very important. Thank you for sharing that. And there's a lot of interest around opportunities now with AI. There's also a lot of fears. People lose their jobs and so on. So, and I think when it comes to the skills gap, Microsoft and LinkedIn reported that while 75% of knowledge workers use AI at work, only 39% of AI users had received AI training from their company, and 66% of leaders said they will not hire someone without AI skills. Also, just to combine this, in the context of career, business, research, and personal success, AI can increase productivity, but it can also increase overconfidence. It can help people make faster decisions, but not necessarily better decisions. In career, business, research, leadership, and personal life, the difference may come down to the ability to ask better questions, evaluate options, identify assumptions, and make sound judgments, which are most of the things you've taken us through today. But talking about the skill gap and opportunities for students, professionals, researchers, and so on, how does critical thinking determine whether AI becomes an advantage or a risk?
This is really loaded questions, but let me unpack it one by one. Talking about skills gap, I think as a volunteer with Open School Initiative, we really understood that based on the data. Because like the data we have at Open School Initiative, we have more than 30,000 different touch points. Since 2023, we have been at the forefront of doing a lot of business, a lot of training, be it civil servant, lawyers, journalists, women support group, and all other things. I think we have done bespoke training, including faculty members. And for every training we normally do, we provide pre and post questionnaire. And there was a time we were analyzing all this data to understand, to get insights. And we realized like almost 98% of the feedback we received when we analyzed this feedback, one of the questions we ask in everything is on whether there is a policy governing the use of AI in your workplace, whatever workplace you have. And 98% of all the answers was no. And that was one of the motivating factors. We did this AI literacy fellowship for African policymakers so that we target the policymakers. Because if you, as a chief executive officer of Distinction or Flex this up, didn't even understand the implication on the positive side and the negative side of enacting or using these tools, it is going to be a problem. But what if policymakers are able to understand? They understand all the good side and some of the challenges that the use of AI might come with, then it will serve as a stepping stone for them to push for this training. And that is what we are doing, and that is what we have been doing at Open School, and we will continue to do that. The skill gap is really a problem, but what we have seen is really an opportunity for people to do. Concerning some of the fears that comes with AI, so in those years, like 2 years ago, whenever we are doing training at Open School, we used to have this activity where we ask people to go to the Pessimist Archive. It is a website called Pessimist Archive. It documented the history of technological phobia, where right from the beginning, when there was this development of magazine or a bicycle or a car or something of nature, every time a tool comes in, there will be fears. For example, there was time when magazines were started created in the US, and there were a lot of protests from men saying this type of magazine will make women not to be submissive to men and their husbands. And in that pessimist archive, it was documented, like there were so many peers. And one of the solutions I used to ask is, so it becomes like a trend for every technology. That is going to be peers, and there is going to be stabilization, there is going to be job displacement. Those who use these tools will tend to take advantage earlier compared to those who decide not to use these tools. So I think that one is really, really important to understand. So there is always going to be fear about technology. And there is also this thing where one of those researchers was saying technology is just like a toothpaste. Once it is out, it will be difficult for people to recant it. So that is why at Open School, we are really pushing for this capacity building training. And we don't care. Whatever you are doing, we don't collect a single kobo from you. What we are interested in is how might we help you to impact, whether you are an academic, whether you are a student, whether you are a business or a nonprofit. Once you approach us, you are looking for training, we are happy to provide that training, because we may never know how somebody can impact on that and can impact community. I think that is the second aspect. And I haven't write all the other one, but how it will impact critical thinking. I think it is important to mention, while the reason why we have this course in the book is AI will keep changing every now and then. But the idea behind critical thinking will not change. So that is why it is good for people to enroll in the course, and if they have opportunity to get access to the book, to go through the book and reflect and understand some of the concern, some of the methods, some of the protocol we use, so that they can assimilate and live without being embarrassed of using these tools. And one thing we keep encouraging people to do is, like, there are a lot of available training. If you can't be, there are a lot of really training available for people to do, because it will help you to do a lot of things. So it is better for people to take opportunity to learn all this before people begin to monetize all this kind of available and free tools.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tim. Because of time, I've seen some hands raised. I will take some questions and round up. Aliyu, you can unmute.
Oh, okay. Now,
Please ask
thank you
him
very
not to
much.
do professorial question. You know, Andy is a professor. Ask him,
Subhanallah.
please.
Thank you, my mentor. Now you are my mentor in AI world. You are number one. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much, the facilitator and the organizers, for taking us through this important course. Uh, Dr. Najeeb has said it all as far as AI is concerned. He's the leading presenter in this field. As he was presenting, actually, I received a question as an administrator, or rather an issue that I have to resolve by a student, who was graded 0 because of use of AI. And then, and also, of course, we have a policy, a kind of supplementary that faculties shall check manually. Don't rely 100% on AI, just what do you call verdicts to say 100% or 50% AI generated. So this is outstanding. So it's so amazing. Even the thesis he mentioned, somebody mentioned that one of the people presenting the case that his thesis or his undergraduate project that he did it in 90s, he put it in AI and it showed 80% AI generated. This is exactly what Dr. Gambo has mentioned now. I'm so amazing to hear this. So, Doctor, what would be your suggestion about this students' assignment and also, faculty grading? Because it continues to be an issue in all the leading universities, whether there's any policy or the best way to deal with the students' assignment. Students will continue to use AI as faculties do. So what are your suggestions in this kind of situations? Thank you very much.
This is an interesting question, Prof. Aliu. And even 2 days ago, I watched one US TV talking about a professor from Arkansas University who was using adversarial approach to catching people using AI in his class. And I said that because I'm going to write an article about that, because to me, ethically, it's not right. And that is why at Open School, we develop a whole program. We are going to target higher education of learning. And it is going to be a 3-day intensive workshop on how to integrate AI in an ethical and responsible manner where teaching will be the focus and learning. And in that workshop, we are interested in bringing every stakeholder, including students, to bring template on how to go about all this problem. So here is the question. At the moment, it will be difficult for any university or any higher education of learning to say we cannot use AI. The problem is if you said that, you are not preparing students for the future of work. As I'm speaking to you, if you are using all Google-enabled tools, if you have a Google Workspace, you have Google Docs, you have Excel, you have Google Sheet, Google Deck, and everything, including the workspace, Google Classroom, whatever you are going to use, AI is embedded there. If you are using Office 365, the paid version, every tool from Microsoft 365 suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, whatever is embedded with AI. And if you are going to work in a very, very serious organization, there is no way you will say you will not do that. That ability to work with AI is going to be a plus for you. Number 3, if you are working with WhatsApp, working with Instagram, working with all these social media tools, you will realize AI is embedded there. So whatever tools you are working with at this moment, AI is embedded there. So there is no way higher education of learning will insulate students not from learning. So are they going to teach them the right way of using these tools, or they just allow them and penalize them while they are using these tools? That is one question. So the most important is for us to tell ourselves the bitter truth. of, okay, what is the right way to embed this in our curriculum in a way that we can also help our students. Because there is even a lab, I can't remember a lab from Harvard University. They created that lab just for them. Like they call it like something tinkering lab on AI, where every student, every lecturer, everything go to that lab, tinker with AI, break it, then let us repair it. That is how we learn. That is how knowledge is produced. And you didn't understand AI, and you are now pushing everything to the people. Let me just give you a quick example. There is this guy, Ethan Monick. I really follow his writing when it comes to AI. Last 2 years, Ethan come up and say, what can I do with AI in 60 minutes? Under 60 minutes, he shared 8 different activities that hitherto will take him like 3 years, but with AI, it took him like 60 minutes to accomplish that. So like 14 months later, Ethan Mullet said, what can I do under 90 seconds? And he accomplished much work. And this guy is a professor, and he's going to teach his student how to use all this AI. And your student from a university insulated from using AI will go there and think of competing with this type of people. How possible is this? So that is just, I think the idea is there should be a continuous professional development program on how might we find an ethical and responsible use of these tools in our academic learning and practice. I think that is my answer to. And and in those years, like 7 months ago, in some of the trainings we do with faculty members, one of the workaround I proposed was using what we call draft back tool. If you are using Google Docs, you can add Pies, what do you call this kind of thing that people add on top?
Review or comment?
These different tools that can enable the work with Google Docs. Add-ons like plugins. There is a plugin called DraftBack. There is another one called GPT-0. It's a plugin. That plugin, when you put it on your Google Docs, it is like taking record of everything you captured in that. So as a student, for you to, because like some of these universities or some of these lecturers will want to just analyze students, not help them, not empower them. So as a student, what you need to do, download DraftBack app on you and do all your work on Google Docs. When a lecturer come and say you did with AI, come and plug it and show everything there and take them to court. It is their responsibility to show that you did AI, and you show them you didn't use AI, then you get so many money because somebody accused you of not doing that because you have everything. So DraftBack will really help students to insulate themselves from all this accusation from these people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Dr. Khalil.
Yes, thank you, Faiz, and thank you,
First class material, please don't give me complicated questions that I cannot answer. You will end up in answering your question.
Don't worry, my question is very short and sweet.
Okay.
You have excellently described the role of critical thinking in this age of AI. Personally, I've been thinking about this a lot because, now is the time of judgment. So lovely presentation. Thank you. However, can you zoom in a little towards the role of critical thinking towards building expertise in the age of AI? So this kind of aligns with the question that the Prof. Abdullahi had asked. And I'll take a few seconds to tell you why I'm asking this question. A few days ago, there was a professor called Ernest, or I can't remember his name, but all I know is that he was from UCLA, and he used ChatGPT to solve a 42-year-old math problem. The chat with him and ChatGPT was made public, and like every other person, I went through it. Nothing made sense to me, but it was clear that it was making sense to Ernest at that particular point in time. And that's how he's able to solve the 40-year-old problem. Of course, you'd forgive anyone to conclude that access to AI is necessary, and everyone should, have that access, but it is not the same thing as expertise, because you're not able to judge the quality of the answer, but even being able to utilize it. And that kind of aligns to what you're saying in critical thinking. So my question is, how should we draw the line between critical thinking and expertise when using AI, right? So to what extent should we be experts? Secondly, should we even care about being experts now? Because if you think about what Faiz said earlier on, he said that AI can increase overconfidence, making it easy to mistake fluent output for understanding. So if you think in software now, if I have AI, it can do 90% of the job for me, and 90% might just be okay. And then there's an expert that will, shout and cry about that 10% that we're not doing. So the question is, how should we draw the line between critical thinking and expertise when using AI? Should we care about being experts, right? Those two questions. And you can keep it short and sweet too if you want, since we are pressed for time.
I think this is one of the most interesting questions. And to be honest, nearly all the people I have been reading their work when it comes to dealing with human-centered AI, that expertise is one area people don't want to really succumb. Recently, I had a workshop with National Kenyan Open University, where I had these professors, this and that. And one of the things I did there was to provide a Mentimeter poll to these people. And I have even written it in one of my LinkedIn posts. And we said, now, given that AI can do most of heavy lifting when it comes to teaching, learning, and research, what remains to lecturers? So the unanimous answer from this, they said human oversight and expertise. Because I can tell you something, the last time I coded, and it was not even heavy coding, was during my master's. And since then, my work doesn't entail me to do any technical coding. And using vibe coding, I'm building a lot of stops here. But because I don't have that foundational knowledge or how a lot of things work behind the thing, I'm still not convinced about my expertise in that field. And in one of the studies I read like 2 years ago, one of the major concerns is even knowledge production. Because like these studies, they looked at different, they looked before ChatGPT about contribution in stock overflow. And after 2023, how people contribute to stock overflow. And they do this mapping to understand before that and after that. And one of the great concerns they have is knowledge production. And one of the behind the scenes they talk about is human expertise. And I read a lot of, and I do analysis about a Reddit thread about how people are using ChatGPT. And one of the things, it was about medical questions and answers. And after that, one medical officer come and provide all the reasons that we should always draw a line between expertise and what these tools can do. Whatever you learn, these tools can do. If you didn't have the foundation, if you didn't have the basic, it will be difficult for you to get some of the answers, because like dealing with this tool will not give you a lot of nuances, and they need to understand nuances before they give you the right answers. Like doctors, they need to understand the history, to understand the emotion, to understand the pulse, to understand everything before they do that. Therefore, we should really, really be careful. Whatever we do, we can't do that since we have no subject matter expertise in that particular field. So we should really be careful, and we should always work with mentors to understand things. Thank you so much. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. Because of time and I've seen one hand raised. Will be the last question, but there's this on the chat. How to make use of AI without being intimidated by any lecturer. And a related question, why are the lecturers using AI but discouraging students from integrating it? I think you've touched on that, but just a quick answer.
But if you could recall our recent workshop where we had like 3 cohorts for ethical and responsible use of generative AI in academic practice, in academic research and writing, I think there was this different justification where lecturers are accusing students of using ChatGPT, and students are accusing the lecturers of using AI. And we said that was part of our justification to do this ethical and responsible use of generative AI. So I think one of the most important thing, transparency is one way of doing that. You need to be transparent that I used AI in my assignment. Where did I use AI? Where my cognition and input comes in? And it's good if you can just copy the link and put it there. So you are transparent, you are open about that. That will really help you to solve a lot of problems. And I think before even you do, it's good for students to have this conversation with their teachers. Because the problem students want always to show they are more smarter than their teachers. And some of the students, when they use this AI, you will see a shallow use of these tools. They don't really read, they don't correct, they don't even interact to make sure that they are in control. They just want to do it pop, 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 and share it and like they want to be smarter than their teachers. And it doesn't work like that. And there was this argument I was in with somebody. I said, if student can use AI tools 100% to produce a project, I am happy to give him all the marks. But the question is, the student, I think we need to discuss with you for every chapter you are working on. I need to understand your thinking. Then go and produce that. But the problem of the students, some of them don't really like to do the real work. They just want to show they are smart. Get the answer, copy without writing. In the recent workshop we did on this ethical and responsible use of generative AI, I have shown how a university lecturer from ABU Zaria has shared a part of the manuscript of a student, saying even if our student managed to go to exam hall with smartphone and use AI, they don't know how to say, do you want more concise answer or a bullet point? That was what that guy even copied without even thinking, like he used AI. So it is an issue of learning how to use it ethically, responsibly, becoming transparent and open about what you use AI, what are the prompts you use, so that your teachers could be able to understand. Please have a discussion with them so that they can guide you. What they need is to help you do that. Some of them are really, really good lecturers. They want really you to do quality work, not to do it so that you can't even articulate your answers. And one thing I normally do in all my writing, I make sure my ideas is all mine, because I don't want to have two different personalities in life. You can have the most articulate, well-polished, well-succinct guy in writing, but come to public speaking, you can't articulate your information. So there are two different people. So for us to be really competent enough, we need to really put the work, understand, be transparent, and discuss with our lecturers. They will really help us. They are there to mentor and help us not to be adversarial in what we do. Once you do this opening thing, it will help you a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. So the last question, TECN.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for the organizers and then the presenter. My question is related to Prof's question, but there's a little bit difference. So there was a time I sent my paper for publication. So for the plagiarism check, so even the title the names of the authors, the address, the email, all these were part of the plagiarism check, and it appears. So how do we tackle such kind of problem in future? Thank you very much.
So I'm struggling to understand. They put it in like turn it in, or they put it in any AI tool and they realize it is plagiarized, or what? That's the question I'm asking.
Turn it in. They put it in, turn it in together with all this information.
Yeah, and they said it's plagiarized.
Plagiarized is part of the percentage.
Okay. So the plagiarization you are talking about, is it the normal plagiarism or AI generated content detection?
Both.
Okay. So I think there is a website from Penn State University. I did that course when I was doing my PhD on plagiarism. If you can really go and find it's Penn University, or you just follow my LinkedIn and ask me, I can share that.
Okay.
That will really help you to go through and understand what plagiarism is all about. Number two, with regard to the title or something, I think if you can be original just based on the content and come up with your title, that will not be a problem as far as title of the problem is all about. Once it is your own, that will not be a problem. And even when it comes down, as somebody is plagiarized, it's a discussion that you will have with your supervisor, because supervisors have this authority, because like they are the subject matter expert in the field, they will really see whether you should go along with it or you shouldn't go with it. So it's a discussion you are going to have with your supervisor. But I really commend you to take that plagiarism course from that Penn University. Yeah, it's really, really good. In one of my writing in those days, when we have this 8-month strike, I did a writing on what undergraduate students should need to do, and that thing that would really help them. That was that site I gave example of. Please go and take that course. It will really help you for plagiarism. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think finally, in one sentence before we close, first of all, we appreciate everyone. We appreciate our guest speaker today. And just to close this session, in one sentence, if you advise the participants that are here, with one mindset shift and one practical habit for succeeding in the age of AI, what will they be?
Yeah, in one sentence, keep learning and keep following subject matter experts that can inspire you. That is how you get resources and you get ideas on how to succeed. Keep learning, keep following those that you feel like are good subject matter expert in that. That will help you to do that. They will inspire you to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Doctor's LinkedIn is on the chat. Follow him. You'll learn a lot and you can follow up with questions if you have. Enroll to the course, Critical Thinking in the Age of AI, before you.
Yeah, and I think one last information part is like at Open School, because we are more interested in creating awareness. We are coming up with something that the first 100 people, Open School is interested in providing a lot of things to them. So people will win. And I have seen that previously about 11 people completed the course. And those 11 people automatically qualified for that. So if you want to be part of those people that will get swags and other things on top of the knowledge you will gain, I think that will be good. Very soon we are going to launch that.
Interesting. So thank you. Be the first 100 to complete the course and wait for the surprise gift. Thank you all once again. It's been really a productive and exciting session. See you in the next edition of the Distinction webinar series. Bye.
thank everyone. Thank you so much.